I threw it out to the people at the dinner party, and the teen that was sitting next to me said, Deborah, the title has to be in your book. And I was like, my feet aren't ugly. I mean, I just spit it out right there. So, and then my publishers were like, yes, this is a perfect title. So that's how I got the title.
Oh, it's such an amazing story, Deborah, and we just had a little glitch. It didn't record. So would you mind just sharing just at the beginning? How did you get to the title of My Feet Aren't Ugly?
So when I was 13, you want me to do the story over? When I was 13,
yeah. There's something happened. So sorry about that.
So when I was 13 years old, I was out in Phoenix in July, hot, bare feet, and there was a guy that I was talking to that I was totally crushing on, and he kept looking down at my feet, looking at me, looking at my feet, and then all of a sudden he was just like, oh my gosh, you have the ugliest feet I've ever seen. And really, I was devastated. I went into the house, looked at my feet, and I'm like, gosh, I just didn't think they were that ugly. But I didn't wear open-toed shoes in Phoenix for a year until I was at the river with some friends. The subject of feet came up. My feet looked for cover. And then a friend of mine said, Debra has really cute feet. And my mind was just like, what? How can someone think that I have cute feet and the other person thinks that I have the ugliest feet they've ever seen? And right then I realized, you can't really base how you feel on what other people think. And so, yeah, that's how we came up with the story, or the title of My Feet Aren't Ugly. And a teen, when I was at a dinner party, pretty much told me that my title was, she's like, Deb, the title's in the book. And I was just like, oh my God, it's My Feet Aren't Ugly. And she was like, that's a great title. And my publishers thought so too. So that's how we came up with the title. And it's been doing good. It's got legs. It's been out there for over 10 years and it's still selling. And I just did the 3rd revision on it and put 3 new chapters on the negative voice inside, judgments, and anxiety, because teens are really struggling with that right now.
It seems like such a much needed book. And I love the story. And I also love that at 13 years old, you got the wisdom and the insight that you can't really base how you feel on what other people say. I mean, that's a powerful insight, because for the people who don't know Phoenix, in summer, it's like 120 degrees sometimes, like 50 centigrade. So that basically, and here was Deborah trying to cover up her feet all through summer. And it must have been torture for you, right?
It was torture. It was. It really was. So.
Yeah.
It's
a great book. And so, would you love to share your story of how you got to do what you do, and maybe just share a little bit about what you do exactly?
Absolutely. So I think that I was a pretty tormented teen. I was bullied a lot. I didn't have a good support system at home. I have dyslexia and ADD, and I had those. And so I didn't do well in school either. And I always felt like it was exclusive to me growing up until I had 2 daughters of my own. And then I always was watching and observing how girls in particular seemed to have had the same issues that I had. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is not exclusive. And so I really started mentoring them, and then mentoring my friends, kids, and parents. And so it happened organically, that part of it. And then I remember some part through my business, I always had other jobs because I didn't think I could ever really jump out and just do this 100% until probably 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And so I guess I just feel like just helping teens. I wanted so much just to help teens like feel better about themselves and help parents help their teens, and so I used to just mentor teens exclusively. And then I realized, boy, I'm in no man's land. I got to get the parents in here. And so then I added the parents, And all of a sudden things started really shifting when I added the parents. Then what happened was parents started referring other people to me, mostly women that didn't even have kids. And then I remember I started with doing mother-daughter retreats with teens. And I remember getting a call from a mother, and she said, "Do you do adult mother-daughter retreats?" And I said, "Yes." And I swear I called my web guy that day and I said, "You have to get another page up on my website, adult mother-daughter retreats." And then I started the business, it just came to me. And I actually do more adult mother-daughter retreats than I do teen, which is so funny to me. And then my business just evolved. And then before I know it, I created Sedona Soul Retrieval for couples, individuals, and adult mother-daughter retreats. And just teaching them really, and it's the same thing I do with mothers. It's like, how do we look at what happened to us in our childhood and what beliefs we created from that space? Because we all do. We all create a belief system, whether it's I'm not good enough, I'm not in control of my life, I need to fix things, I'm always wrong, I'm always doing something wrong. And so if we don't shift those and heal those, we actually act out of them as adults. And then if that's the case, then our relationships will suffer with other people. Those blocks will stop us. And I think we were talking earlier on, one of my big blocks growing up was that I had to do things I didn't love for money. And
common one.
Yeah. And so I started really working on shifting that in my mind. And when I realized, oh my gosh, I am shifting this, my business just, blew open. It completely shifted. And it's not, it did take work to really shift the beliefs, because some of our beliefs are really deep-seated,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I grew up in a family where financial troubles were through my entire life. That my dad used to say, you got to work hard for money, and so I grew up thinking, yeah, you got to work hard for money. You have to do things you don't love for money. And I'm like, those are horrible beliefs, because then it takes us away from what we're passionate about and what our dharma is. Like, what am I supposed to be doing here on this planet? If I'm stuck in a job that I don't want to be in, then I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be. And now I feel like I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and because of that, I have a lot of bliss with it. So.
Yeah, and that's what I love about you. Whenever you talk about your work, you just light up, you're just so passionate. And so I would like to talk a little bit more about beliefs and how did you overcome those beliefs? Because as you said, we all have disempowering beliefs that have been handed down even through the generations, wars, struggle, and then we keep living from them and block ourselves from the abundance that's available, from the love, from the purpose and the passion that we could be experiencing. So how did you clear those beliefs?
Well, it was through, I've had mentors all my life, and I've done retreats all my life and done workshops all my life. I've been in self-development since I was probably 28-ish. My mom died when I was 26. And I was just divorced, and I had two daughters, 4 and 5. So I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do here? And so I threw myself into self-development. So I've done a lot of work, and through my work, I've created like these systems where it's like, I call it a method, the Sedona Soul Retrieval method, that you can get in. I think what bothered me a lot about therapy, maybe in general, or retreats, like with retreats, I'd go into a retreat and I'd feel great for like a week. And then I'd go right back into my old patterning. Or with therapy, I'd seem to be talking about the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I'm like, gosh, can't we just get out of that wounded place? And so when I created this method, I just thought, So how do we go in and get the data and get out? You know, we don't need to stay in that story. So because sometimes we get stuck in that story and then we find ourselves literally stuck in the story. And so to get the data we need to find out what old beliefs we have created from our youth, and then utilize that to start shifting them. Because sometimes just understanding, wow, I have a belief that I had to work hard for money, that I had to do something I don't love for money. And then what I did was to work on it. Part of what I did, it's because to explain the whole thing, we'd probably have to be here for about a day, the whole process. But one of the things I would do is I would sit at my desk, and like I would have to be at my desk from 8 till 6 because I had to work hard for money. And so when I would start noticing that story was winding in my mind, I would be like, I'm going to get up and go take a hike in the middle of the day, or I'm going to get up and I'm going to go do some artwork in the middle of the day. And as much as that ego part of me was like, you're going to starve to death, you're not going to be successful, because it's got that whole story going, I'd be like, you know, that's just not the truth. It's just not the truth. And I do what Cesar Millan does. I don't know if you know the dog whisperer.
Yeah.
He does this thing with animals. It's and it kind of snaps the dog out of that behavior. I do that to my ego. I go, and just so that I can snap myself out of it. And then I never listen to the ego, because the ego will tell me, you have to stay at that job you don't like. You have to sit at that desk for 40, 50 hours a week. And I'm like, not going to do it. I'm not listening to you. And so it's not only understanding the belief system, but it's not taking the action of what the ego is yakking in your ear about. Because, you know, we all have that higher voice, and then we have that lower voice that tells us what to do. And that's the voice we need to be very careful with. I'm not listening to.
That's so powerful, because that's exactly true. I mean, to have, first of all, the awareness to recognize what's going on, identify it, that is just an old voice, an old pattern from the past, and then taking action, putting down a new pattern to represent that, and with an action. So we physically embody it. And there may be fear, we're out of the comfort zone. There may be all sorts of voices, but yeah, the more often we do it, the weaker that old pattern gets, right?
It is. And I tell people that it's like, you know, like when you've got 2 fires and you're stoking one, that's the one that grows. So if every time the ego tells you this is what you need to do, and you say, not going to do it, the higher place in me gets stronger and the ego gets diminished. And that's what we want to do, because most of the time people's egos are running the show. And so, I mean, and if you're not on it, I'm always like this with my ego. I'm like, I've got my eyes on you. And I do that throughout the day. I'm doing the thing too, and I'm saying, I've got my eyes on you. People would probably think I was crazy because I have these conversations with my ego all day long. If not my little girl, the little girl in me that's like, oh, I'm scared, you know, and those feelings rush up to the emotional body. Then the ego comes in like, I can fix that. You just sit at your desk and you work your butt off. And I'm like, well, I'm so not going to do that. But thank you very much.
Yeah. Can anybody who's listening and watching this, can you relate? I mean, this is such a common thing, and I really love this, having this observer self.
Yes.
Just observing and that's catching those moments where the disempowered self wants to take over and just keep on repeating the same old pattern, which keeps us in a rut.
It does. It really does. And so if we can just, like you said, just back up a little bit and watch the craziness that's going on in our minds. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's totally crazy. And so if we can just back it up a little bit, slow down, I'm big at breathing. Like if I get triggered, I just take 2 big breaths and I relax my body and I relax my heart space. That's a big Mickey Singer thing, Untethered Soul. And I love that because I can actually feel myself relax so that I can step back and watch what my crazy mind is telling me to do. Because if you really get an opportunity to watch it, you will start laughing because it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I love this. I love this breathing into your heart space to really get connected with the true self, with our empowered self. And yeah, that's.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, Deborah, how did you end up leaving that job then? I mean, that must have been scary to actually. Yeah, what happened?
Um, I remember it was almost like the universe was pushing me out of the job. And it was funny because when I jumped out and said, yeah, I've got to stop, it was because something had happened in there. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be here for the next couple of weeks. I'll wrap up things, but I can't be here anymore. And I am not even kidding you, because I was really working on a lot of my old beliefs and, getting rid of some of the blocks that I can't be successful doing what I love. I was working on those, that when that happened, it was the weirdest thing because literally I said, no, that doesn't work for me anymore. And I got a call from a client the next day that she's still with me, actually. And she has referred so much business to me. My business just boom, I just opened up. And I'm like, that's what happens. See, and it was the action too of me saying no to something that wasn't working for me. Like, because there was fear. I didn't have the income. I walked away knowing that I didn't have the income to support myself. And it was a leap of faith, and I was jumping off, and I was just like, wow, that's what happens when you just have faith and you trust that if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you get rid of some of those old beliefs, then you can move into a position where you can do what you love and actually support yourself. So,
wow, so much courage and such a bold step. I mean, that's really so inspiring, Deborah. And at the same time, when we do take those bold steps in the face of the unknown, because you didn't know at this point whether you're going to make it or not, right?
No, I did not.
But yeah, when we say yes to ourselves, to our dream, to our purpose and passion, the universe is right there and supports us. And this is exactly what happened. What a beautiful story.
Yes. And I love that. And I get to see that in some of my clients that I work with, where they've got these blocks. And when I'm working with them on the blocks, they're like, oh my gosh, my life has just shifted so dramatically. And it's because it really does take removing the blocks. I'm a big one on, the law of attraction and all of that. But I do believe if you have blocks, I can say all day long, I'm successful, I can make it, or I can do this. But if I've got those core beliefs that are locked in, and I just don't know that you're going to be able to create a vision board or do all that and have it all just change without working on shifting those beliefs. I do believe you have to, do the work, put the work in just to shift them. And work is kind of a weird word because, I look at all life experiences as an opportunity for me to shift my old beliefs. I mean, every experience in life that gives me is like, oh, goody, I get to work on shifting a belief, because I wouldn't get it if I didn't have an old belief stuck.
I love that. I love that, Deborah. So whatever happens is always the next level in your personal development and growth. And there's always, when we get triggered, there's a part that's unhealed inside of us, right? And so that's the opportunity. And yeah, so I love that. And so, Deborah, I would love to maybe if you would to share some experiences that you have with mother and daughter retreats. What are some of the stories that come out of it? Because most of us. We got issues or unresolved issues with our parents or mother-daughter, daughter of dad or whatever, but your experience with mothers and daughters.
Boy, the adult mother-daughters are amazing because I've had mothers and daughters call me saying, I haven't spoken to my mother in 2 years and 3 years, or I'm done with my relationship with my mother. I'm done with my relationship with my daughter. And when they come in and they both do, because it's separate work, but they get to see how their old beliefs are so wrapped in with their mother or their daughter. And that when they get triggered, then they trigger their mother, or it goes back and forth. So when they can kind of unwrap that and look at their own stuff and take full ownership of what's going on with them, then that's when things really start shifting for them, because it's like they come in blaming each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you are the reason why I feel this way, or I've never been successful, or whatever it is they're blaming each other for. That game stops in the mother-daughter retreat completely. It goes from blaming to, oh, wow, I have a part in this. And the same thing happens with mother-daughters. When a mother calls me about a teen and they're like, you've got to fix my daughter. You've just got to fix her. This is what's going on. I'm always like, can I just work with you? And the whole family dynamic shifts with me working with the mother. The mothers are really powerful, beacons in the family. And I worked with one mother that had 6 kids and a husband, thank God. And the 3 youngest were acting out and the 3 oldest were not talking to her. They weren't sharing with her. And the husband wasn't sharing at all. And she called and she goes, I just can't afford to have you work with my whole family. I said, that's okay. What if I just work with you? And she's like, okay. Well, it was like amazing. She was in shock. She's working with parents right now with teens, because she was so amazed at how her entire family dynamic shifted. And she actually 3 years later brought her husband in for a couples retreat, and she does this work. And so it's pretty impactful, to just see mothers and daughters go from this place of total separation to coming together and not just doing the work to have a better relationship together, but doing the work so that they can be big out in the world, so they can start living their dreams and their passions. It's like, yes, you want to have a good relationship with your mother, and are you living your dream? Are you living your passion right now? And a lot of times it's like, no, I'm not. Well, this is going to help you step into that place. And it does.
I mean, when we got all this stuff going and the static and being in trigger country all the time,
yes,
we don't have this connection to this deeper part inside of us, with clarity on what we would really love, because we are dodging bullets, we're kind of defensive.
I love that. Yeah, I call it the trigger bomb. I used to be a trigger bomb. I would be able to go like 15 minutes without like something like assaulting me, a trigger. It was like, it was not fun to be on this planet like that. And now it's like the heat has just come out. I notice it and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I'm able to deal with it most of the time. Not to say that sometimes it doesn't slap me in the face and I'm like, wow, that was interesting. That really hit deep, and then do my work around it and move forward.
Yeah.
I like
that. That's amazing. And so, Debra, in the beginning, you worked with teens, and right now, I mean, with COVID especially, and you talked about your new chapters in your book, anxiety and, low self-worth. What do you see in teens today, and how can we help them? And
Boy, I'm telling you, my whole business with teens has completely shifted. I used to every once in a while get a teen that had high anxiety or that was on the edge of suicide. But I am telling you, every call I get, the teen is severely depressed, high anxiety, on medication, in the hospital from attempted suicide. I'm like, oh my gosh, what used to be a rarity is now a norm.
Wow.
And they're acting out in ways that, and I know a lot of it is, I know COVID has played a big part, but this was before COVID. And I think social media, I think, if I could just tell parents, limit social media. Watch Childhood 2.0, social, and The Social Dilemma. Watch those, and they will change how you how you limit social media for your kids, because I think it is. I think it's depressing them and giving them high anxiety.
There's so much FOMO and so much comparison and so much fakeness, and you don't know really, don't know who you are. And
Right.
and I don't think kids nor the parents have tools how to deal with emotions, to deal with conflict, to deal with
No.
life. So
No.
what's the answer, Debra? How can we solve this problem?
I'm working with parents more than teens right now. If I work with teens, it's mostly just to hear them, for them, and hear what they have to say and support them and see what I can do to help them. But mostly I'm working with parents on their expectations and how they handle their expectations with their teen, and to support them, and knowing that every word that comes out of your mouth either empowers or disempowers them. It's our choice. And so, and I learned this from making many, many mistakes with my kids. And so, I'm just trying to help the parents, because if parents can do their work, then they don't react to their teens the same way. They start responding, because what happens with parents is their teens, they do something and they get triggered, then they take that and they project their fear all over their teen. And then whether their teen's just trying to express their own feelings, they can't even have their own feelings because their parents are a mess, or their parents are just projecting anger onto them. And so they miss the opportunity to guide them, quite frankly, to say, hey, okay, so you made a mistake. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what you might be able to do different next time, instead of coming at them with all of the fear that's been wrapped up in them for their whole life, because that doesn't help them. That doesn't help them learn. And so I'm really in that end of my business. I work more with the parents than I do the teens now, because I make a way bigger impact on their life when I do that, as opposed to just working with the teen. So.
Yeah, I see the same with the work I do. I see parents come home and say, I'm less reactive. I can just be with the child. I can, or even when I react, I can afterwards sit them on my lap and say, hey, this wasn't your fault. It was, I was triggered, but it didn't have anything to do with you.
I love that.
Yeah, and those are the things that, that's so super powerful. And so parents out there, if you're listening to that, please do your inner work and contact Debra. And so, by the way, how can people that are listening right now and watching this contact you?
Well, they can go to my website, obviously, either one. Sedona Soul Retrieval is for the adults, and Empowered Teens and Parents is for, obviously, parents with teens. And they can call me, but all my numbers, everything is on my website. I just revised Sedona Soul Retrieval. It looks great.
It's beautiful.
Today, it just went live today. So with the new updates. And I have courses for parents as well that I've just discounted huge. I just decided, I want to get it out there as many parents as they, can do it. So I have 4 weeks to teen self-esteem, and then I have 4 weeks to connecting with your teen. 2 great programs. They're easy, and I did them that way on purpose because I know we have a limited amount of time. out there. So they're easy. They take about 15 minutes to read. Then you practice what we talk about, and then you're on to the next week. And then if you want to do mentoring, you can add that on whenever. So that's for the parents.
That's awesome, Debra. And so we put all the information in the notes, so you can contact Debra for her courses, and maybe just hold up the book one more time just to show. Here we are. My Feet Aren't Ugly: A Girl's Guide to Loving Herself from the Inside Out. It's probably every girl and maybe even every woman who could really get a lot out of that, right?
Yes. And another thing I was going to tell you, there's a space on both websites that you can do a free consult. It's a 20-minute consult, and sign up for that. And I have tip sheets all over my websites, especially my teen one, that they can get free tips just by putting their name in and getting free tip sheets. So
the teens can get free tips?
On both sites, there's a place that you can sign up and get a free tip sheet on COVID survival guides, relationships, on all kinds of things throughout both websites. So,
wow, that's awesome. That's wonderful. And so, Debra, I love how generous you are and how supportive, and you just want to support the community and make a difference.
Yeah.
The ripple effect is amazing, So.
Definitely.
And so, what would you say to a woman who has got a dream, but she hasn't acted on it yet? What is your piece of advice?
Gosh, well, work on looking at what's blocking you first. Like really, like do some soul searching on what is my old belief around this that's preventing me from moving forward. And then look at all the ways in your life that seems to just kind of come up and hit you in the face, and then just keep at it. When I wrote this book, I thought it was almost, I had it laid out, and I thought, okay, I'm going to give myself 6 months and it'll be done. Well, 3 years later, it was done. And there were obstacles, but I just was like, you know what? This is an obstacle. Life has obstacles. So what? You just, I did my work around the obstacles and kept moving forward. So I would say, get to know yourself really well, know your blocks, and then make sure you're not acting out of those blocks. And then just keep pushing through. Just keep doing what you got to do to get where you want to go. Don't give up. I just don't give up.
Yeah, there's so much juice, and I can see it. The life force is flowing and the inspiration when you really live true to your soul's purpose, right, Debra?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I used to go into my boss. I was in investments, and I used to go in tears, and he'd go, "Oh, Debra, you should not be doing this." And I'd be like, "I know, I gotta get out of here." Because it was so intense, my brain.
And you did it. And you can help other people do the same. So what a beautiful gift. And it's all part of our growth and learning.
Yeah.
And I love also that you said there will be obstacles. And so for us to expect that everything's always smooth sailing, that's not going to necessarily happen. And so that's okay. This is how we grow. And it doesn't mean it's a stop sign. It just means it's something to overcome so we can make progress. So
absolutely. Yay. Yeah.
Yay. So, well, Debra, thank you so much for all the wisdom and for everything that you shared, your beautiful, empowering journey and your inspiration, your wisdom. And you really lit up the show today. And I'm hoping, really encourage all your listeners, all our viewers to hop on your website and check you out and get at least some of the freebies and
Yes, and thank you for doing this. This is so great that you had some amazing people on. I was just looking, I'm like, oh my gosh. So thank you for putting this out there. Good job.
Thank you for the acknowledgement. And then also, for our viewers, if you've got a dream and this is my purpose and my passion, and would love to support you in finding it if you don't know it yet, and in manifesting it into reality. So shoot me a message if sounds like you. And I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for being here, and so look forward to seeing you again next week for another amazing episode of Dreamers and Doers. Take care. Bye-bye.